Hello, this is Alan on my bookshelf here with Friday Reads, and the first book I've decided to DNF this book is by Anthony Holden Tchaikovsky, a biography. This is, as I've said in my previous videos, it's more of a seeing if Tchaikovsky is gay, when he became homosexual, with various aspects of his life, pointing to him starting to be a homosexual. I didn't care for this one at all. So I'm going to dehaul that one. I did finish a small book by a Japanese author, Shusako Endo. It's only 84 pages. It has 5 stories in it. And this was very good. Each one has a lot of detail in it. And the first book is called, first story is called Uzan. And Uzan is basically a story of this gentleman who takes a ride up to Uzan, which is a place where they tortured and killed missionaries, Christian missionaries. This is the basis of Endo's book, Silence, in which he tells about the 17th century Jesuit missionaries who came to Japan, and it was made into a movie directed by Martin Scorsese, who made the movie because he wanted to apologize for making The Last Temptation of Christ. I'll read you just a little bit about this book. And by the way, Shusako Endo is a Roman Catholic, which is hard to do when you live in Japan because you want to keep everything in secret. Uh, I was reading a New York Times article. It was an obituary, actually, of the Japanese commander in a POW camp. He was the leader of the POW camp in Burma. And it talked about how he was a secret Christian and how he went, after the war, he went to England to attend the funeral of the British commander who was in the camp. And that basically that's the way it is. You have to be silent, as Endo's book said. You cannot be vocal about being a Christian in Japan, and that is getting to be that way here in the United States, unfortunately. In Japan, I met some missionaries who lived in Japan, and they said it's very, very difficult for a person to become a Christian. And they have to, it's called searching. And some people will be searching for a long time. So let me read you a little bit of the first book, the first story, called Uzan. The following morning, the 7 prisoners were hoisted onto unsaddled horses and dragged through the streets of Simbara to this execution ground. One of the witnesses at the scene has recorded the events of the day. After they were paraded about, and they arrived at the execution ground, which is surrounded by a palisade. They were taken off their horses and made to stand in front of the stakes set 3 meters apart. Firewood was already piled at the base of the stakes, and straw roofs soaked in seawater had been placed on the top of them to prevent the flames from raging too quickly and allowing the martyrs to die with little agony. That was nice of them. The ropes that bound them to the stakes were tied as loosely as possible to permit them, up until the moment of death, to twist their bodies and cry out that they would abandon their faith. When the officers began setting fire to the wood, a solitary man broke through the line of the guards and dashed towards the stakes. He was shouting something, but I could not hear what he said over the roar of the fires. The fierce flames and smoke prevented the man from approaching the prisoners. The guards swiftly apprehended him, asking if he was a Christian. At that, the man froze in fear and jabbering. I am no Christian. I have nothing to do with these people. I just lost my head in all the excitement. He sulked away, but some of the crowd had seen him at the rear of the assemblage, his hands pressed together as he repeated over and over, "Forgive me, forgive me." The 7 victims sang a hymn to the flames that enveloped their stakes. The voices were exuberant, totally out of keeping with the cruel punishment they were even then enduring. When those voices suddenly ceased, the only sound was a dull cracking of wood. The man who had darted forward can be seen walking lifelessly away from the execution ground. Rumors spread through the crowd that he too had been a Christian. The second story is called The 50-Year-Old Man. And this is a story about a gentleman who took up ballroom dancing as a 50-year-old man and then had a dog that his wife didn't want him to have. And his brother, he was dying. So both the dog and the brother was dying. The second one is called Japanese of Warsaw. This is a story of the Japanese tourist in Warsaw, and they came upon a gentleman who lived in Warsaw. I believe he's a saint now. And his name was Caughey. Kolbe. Maximilian Caughey. And Maximilian Caughey, Father Caughey, was in the concentration camp at Auschwitz. And the priest was suffering from tuberculosis. But he kept that to himself, and for 3 months he and other captors forced to dispose of the bodies from the gas chambers to that infernal prison. Each time the pause and explanation. 3 months later, a prisoner escaped from the camp. The commandant placed the responsibility for the escape of all prisoners, and as warning, choose 10 of them and put them in a hunger bunker. Hunger bunkers are a room where the people were kept in isolation without bread or drink or water until they died. One day, the prisoners escaped, and the commandant made all the prisoners stand outside through the night. Then he chose the 10 who were to be punished. One of them was a man named, Jai Owanazik. When his name was called, he began to weep. Just then the man stepped forward, his father Caughey. He stood before the commandant and asked to be placed in the hunger bunker in place of Jonowitz. Unlike the man, he said, "I am a priest. I have no wife or children." The commandant gave him his request. And the next story is called The Box. The Box is basically a story about how a gentleman finds his box in a charity shop. He buys it. Inside the box is photographs and a Bible. And he finds the owner of the box. And of course, you're going to have, there will be silence. And you're not supposed to say that they are Christians and living in Japan. And the last story is called A Case for Isobi. Excuse me while I get a drink. Currently reading a book called Running to Win. This was a NetGalley pick. Biography of Eric Liddell. This one comes out in March. It's 210 pages by Elaine Caughey. Eric Liddell his name became famous in the movie Chariots of Fire. And when he had that battle with Eric Abrahams in the movie. And people flocked to the movie and saw Eric Liddell. and he was known as the Flying Scotsman. In fact, that's what one of the books was called, Flying Scotsman. Eric Liddell also wrote a book dealing with devotionals and scripture, things of that nature. And he died in a POW camp in China. And I'm enjoying this so far. A very easy read. The next one I'm reading was also a Nick Alley pick. It's called The Devil's Pawn by Oliver Potzsch, Potzsch, Potzsch. This is a story. It's actually book 2. I always have a tendency when I get Nick Alley to get book 2. I don't know why. It's just the way it is. Book 1 is called The Master's Apprentice, and this one's called The Devil's Pawn. And The Devil's Pawn is basically, I really didn't, since I didn't read book 1, book 2 has references to book 1, but not very much that you lose interest in the story. It's a historical fiction, and it's based on the book Faust by Goethe, Goethe, Goethe. And so Faust is the pawn of the devil, and it lists people like Leo X, Martin Luther, Maximilian, the German emperor, Leonardo da Vinci, and also the devil who's chasing after Faust. So it's been very good read so far. I'm like 25% reading. Well, that's it. I thank you for watching, and take care.